For decades, rock music has carried a haunting idea that maybe the greatest legends don't grow old. Maybe they burn out first. It's a line millions of fans know by heart: better to burn out than to fade away. But what did that phrase really mean when it was written? Recently, rock legend Neil Young opened up about the truth behind that famous lyric, and what he said might surprise you. Because according to Young, the line was never meant to describe life. It was meant to describe rock and roll itself. And when you hear his explanation, you begin to understand why so many of the greatest icons in music history left us at their peak. The dark myth of rock and roll. When Neil Young was asked whether it's better to burn out than fade away, he didn't hesitate. He pointed to the tragic pattern that has haunted rock history. Artists who exploded onto the scene and then vanished forever. Jimi Hendrix, Kurt Cobain, Buddy Holly, Ritchie Valens. Each of them died young. Each of them disappeared at the height of their power. And because of that, their legend never had time to fade. In Young's eyes, that's part of the mythology of rock. They left the world before the applause could stop. Before audiences could move on. Before age or time could soften the edge that made them dangerous. That, he says, is the raw energy rock music was always built on. But then Young pauses. Because there's an important distinction. That philosophy may apply to rock and roll, but not to life. The difference between rock and life. Young made it clear that the lyric was never meant to be taken literally. Rock music is just one piece of life. Real life includes family, children, nature, love, relationships, things far bigger than a stage or a spotlight. Rock and roll may celebrate the idea of going out in a blaze of glory, but real life doesn't work that way. In real life, people grow older. They build families. They evolve. Young himself became living proof of that. Instead of burning out, he kept writing songs, kept performing, kept experimenting with new music long after many of his peers were gone. And while he still loves the intensity of rock, he says life offers something deeper, something that lasts longer than applause. The complicated brotherhood of Crosby, Stills and Nash. Another topic that came up in the interview was Young's complicated relationship with his famous collaborators. For years he worked alongside Stephen Stills and Graham Nash in the legendary group Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. Their bond was intense. But like many creative partnerships, it was also turbulent. Young describes their relationship almost like family. Brothers who sometimes argued. Brothers who sometimes hurt each other. But brothers nonetheless. Despite all the tension, the respect never disappeared. Even today, Young says the connection between them is real. They shared decades of music together. And that kind of history never truly fades. The electric energy of live music. Perhaps the most fascinating moment in the conversation came when Young described what it actually feels like to perform on stage. According to him, something almost physical happens when the music reaches a certain level. He describes feeling a strange sensation. A cool breath. Almost like a cold breeze moving through his head as the music builds. The deeper he gets into the performance, the stronger the feeling becomes. It's not about drugs. It's about connection. Connection between the musicians. Connection between the band and the crowd. And once that energy starts flowing, it becomes a loop. The band feeds off the audience. The audience feeds off the band. And suddenly everyone in the room is part of the same moment. For Young, that experience is the true high of rock and roll. The truth about the drug years. Like many musicians who came of age in the 1960s, Young also faced the reality of drugs in the music scene. His early exposure came when he moved to Toronto and became part of the city's folk music community. There he encountered things he had never seen before. Hash, marijuana, later, amphetamines. Young admits that experimentation was part of the era. But he also made an important distinction. Some substances simply helped musicians relax and listen to their work differently. Others were far more dangerous. And the consequences were impossible to ignore. When Young turned 40, he made a decision. He walked away from the harder drugs completely. No more cocaine. No more little white powder, as he called it. Just a conscious choice to move forward. And once he made that choice, he never looked back. Why Neil Young never chased his own hits? When asked which of his songs he would choose to represent his career, Young refused to answer. Not because he doesn't care, but because he sees songwriting differently. Once a song is written, it's finished. It belongs to the world. The artist moves on. Young says if he spent his time protecting old songs, he might miss the next 3 that arrive. Creativity, for him, is always moving forward. Still, when the interviewer suggested one of his most famous songs, Heart of Gold, Young smiled. He admitted that many fans know him through that track. But others hear it and think, that doesn't sound like Neil Young at all. And Young seems perfectly happy with that. Because the real Neil Young, he says, is always somewhere else. Working on the next idea, the next song, the next moment. Neil Young's career has lasted more than half a century. In a world where many rock legends burned out young, he chose a different path. He kept evolving, kept experimenting, kept chasing whatever new sound came next. And maybe that's the real lesson behind that famous lyric. Rock and roll might celebrate the blaze of glory, but life is about the long road. And for Neil Young, the music is still playing. Why Neil Young walked away from tours? At one point in the conversation, Neil Young shared a story that perfectly explains his personality. It happened during a difficult tour with his longtime collaborator Stephen Stills. The tour wasn't terrible, but it also wasn't great. And for Young, that was the problem. He's never been someone who tolerates something halfway. So when the performances stopped feeling right, he made a decision. He walked away. Before leaving, he sent Stills a short message with a strange phrase at the end. Go eat a peach. It wasn't an insult. It was simply a playful reference to Georgia, the peach state, where they were traveling at the time. Young later explained that he didn't want to continue doing something that didn't feel genuine. When he no longer feels inspired by a project, he stops. And when he does feel inspired, he'll keep going until the work is finished. That stubborn independence has defined his entire career. It's why Young has always followed his own instincts instead of industry expectations. And it's also why fans never know exactly what he'll do next. The new generation that reignited his energy. While Young has spent decades performing with legendary bands like Crazy Horse and Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, he also found something unexpected later in life. A younger band that brought fresh energy back into his music. That group is Promise of the Real. Young jokingly refers to himself as Uncle Neil when he plays with them. They're the sons of another music legend, Willie Nelson, and they grew up listening to Young's songs. But what impressed him most wasn't their admiration. It was their knowledge. According to Young, the band knows more of his songs than some of the musicians he worked with for decades. That deep understanding allows him to play whatever he wants on stage. Old songs, new songs, or something completely spontaneous. For Young, that freedom is incredibly important. At this stage of his life, he says it's refreshing to perform with musicians who can follow his creative instincts anywhere. The moment when music takes over. One of the most fascinating parts of the interview was when Neil Young described the strange physical feeling he experiences while performing. It doesn't happen every night. But when it does, he knows something special is happening. He says that as the music builds and the band locks into the rhythm, he starts feeling something unusual. Almost like a cool breeze moving through his head. A sensation that begins with his breathing. The air feels colder, sharper, and suddenly everything becomes intensely focused. Young says it feels like he's completely inside the music. Not thinking, not planning, just playing. The band feels it too. And eventually the audience feels it. The energy begins circulating through the room like electricity. From the band to the crowd. From the crowd back to the band. Moments like that are impossible to manufacture. They only happen when everything aligns. And for Young, those rare moments are what keep him performing after all these years. Why creativity never stops. As the interview wrapped up, the conversation returned to Young's songwriting. Over the decades, he has written hundreds of songs. Some became classics. Others remained hidden gems known only to devoted fans. But Young says he never thinks about which song will become famous. That's not his job. His job is simply to write. When inspiration arrives, he captures it, finishes the song, records it, then moves on. If he spent too much time worrying about the past, he says he would miss the next idea waiting to appear. And that mindset has allowed him to keep creating long after many artists stop. Even now, decades into his career, Young still feels new songs arriving, still hears melodies forming, still feels the urge to pick up a guitar and see where the music leads. For him, creativity isn't something that fades with age. If anything, it becomes even more meaningful. Neil Young has spent more than 50 years in music. He watched legends rise. He watched legends disappear. And he watched rock and roll transform again and again. But through it all, one thing never changed. His belief that music must remain honest. Whether it's a quiet acoustic song or a roaring electric guitar, Young never chased fame. He chased the feeling that music creates. And maybe that's the real answer to the question he was asked. Is it better to burn out or fade away? For Neil Young, the truth might be something entirely different. You don't burn out. You don't fade away. You just keep playing. And before we come to the end of this video, I just want to take a moment to say a very big thank you to all of you for watching. Your time truly means a lot. In a world where there are thousands of videos you could be watching right now, the fact that you chose to spend a few minutes here with me on Hajararama TV is something I truly appreciate. This channel continues to grow because of viewers like you. Every view, every comment, and every bit of support helps this community become stronger. And that's what makes creating these videos so rewarding. If you enjoyed this video, please take a quick moment to like the video, leave a comment below, and share it with your friends or anyone who might enjoy this content. Your interaction really helps the channel reach more people who love stories, entertainment, and updates just like you do. And of course, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to my channel, Hajararama TV, and turn on the notification bell so you'll always be among the first to know when a new video is uploaded. There are many more exciting videos coming your way very soon, and I would love for you to be part of this journey as the channel continues to grow. I also enjoy hearing your thoughts, so feel free to drop your opinions, ideas, or suggestions in the comment section. Your voice matters here, and your feedback helps make Hajararama TV even better. Once again, thank you so much for watching and for being part of this amazing community. Until next time, stay safe, stay informed, stay entertained, and keep watching Hajararama TV.